Hello everybody, I'm Wildicv and welcome to the second tutorial in my UnrealScript series. Now, in my last tutorial I neglected to tell y'all that you can get a free copy of Microsoft Visual Studio Pro from DreamSpark, which is a Microsoft sponsored program that gives professional tools to students so they can learn what the industry is using today. You can go to the site, it's dreamspark.com. You sign up and register, and then you prove that you are a student either by researching your school and verifying your ID or sending them a copy of your student ID. So I just wanted to inform you of that. Now, the reason I'm making these tutorials is because a lot of people on the forums are joining and they do not realize that there is a programming side. Now, many are okay, I can understand the level designers who don't need to worry about most of the programming side, but people who are wanting to make full games think you can do it with just the editor, which is false. There is a programming language embedded inside the editor that is needed to create new games. Now this language is the UnrealScript scripting language. It is a mix between Java, C++, Basic, and C. So there are some benefits to it. It's small, it's fast. There are less things to worry about for programmers who are worrying about null references and bad pointers. These problems are taken care of. It does all our cleanup for us, so we don't have to worry about deleting anything. So now the role of a programmer is basically make it work. We make everything run. So let's say a player's shooting somebody and you need that player to take damage. Now you can do this with the Kismet in some way, I'm sure, but it's really the role of the script to take care of how much damage each weapon does, etc. Now programming isn't exactly easy. It does take some sort of advanced thinking, and at times it can be very frustrating and hard. But I promise you, if you stick with it, you'll understand why this is a necessity and why this can be fun. Just to give you a look at what we're going to be working with, here's the UnrealScript cheat sheet, which can be found on the Unreal website. Let's zoom in on this. Now, at first you may panic, but don't worry, I will take you through everything on this cheat sheet. I'll explain most of it. Well, I'll explain all of it and how to use all of it effectively. So don't get discouraged when all these words and these symbols you don't understand and what they mean. We will cover all of it. Now, let's close this. Now, if you follow my previous tutorial, we set up our test bed, so I'm not going to cover that. You should already have this done. If not, please refer to my previous tutorial. So let's open up Visual Studio, and let's open up my game. Okay, so you remember this. Now, first thing I want you to do is under the class, my game info, do / and put variables go here. Okay, this is just to remind you that variables must go directly under the class definition, which is this part. That's a class definition. And before any functions are declared. This is just because UnrealScript's picky, and that's how it wants everything to be formatted. Now, today we're going to cover variables. Now, a variable stores information. It could store anything from a name, a value, to objects themselves, and a series of objects. So let's look at the format. The format's simple. It's just var, a keyword, type, and the name. This is our standard format. Now, if there is no keyword present, or you do not wish to use a keyword, which we will discuss, var, the variable type, and the name is enough. So this is just the format. Now let's look at an example. One of the most common types of variables is the integer variable. It's a 32-bit integer, so if you're curious on how big that is, Google it. I'm sure you can find it on the first result. So to declare this, we just put var, that indicates that this is a variable. We're going to put the type int, and let's name it testInt. Now here we go. We have our variable, that's an int, and its name is testInt. Now, to store something in this integer, we go to above our code. Now we reference everything through its name. So to reference that variable, all we have to do is type in test int, and now we are using the variable. So let's make it equal something. So the name test int equals, we'll make it 10. Now that variable holds the value of 10. Well, of course that seems sort of basic, but considering everything is going to need to be stored, anything from health, this variable could hold health. So if you wanted 100 health, that's how it would be. Now let's say we want to increment our int variable by 1. Well, we could go test int equals 101, but that isn't very useful if, let's say, we want to go from, if we want to use it in loop to do a lot of iterations to increase it, which we'll discuss later. So what you also can do to increase it by 1, increment it by 1, is plus plus. Now there is a lot about pre and post, but I just like it post. Most people, they'll say pre is better, this is preference, but I can only say it's preference because there is at times when it'll need to be pre and post. It'll be pre rather than post, and we'll look into that later. But for now, post means after the name will suffice. So now what we see is test int is equal to 100, then we add 1. So now test int is equal to 101. Now this may seem just a bit confusing to a non-programmer, but if you have done some programming, this will make tons of sense, and this is really basic for you. Now let's say we want to display this variable. Now since we reference our variables and their values by their name, inside our log, let's just type the name. Let's build this. As always, the first compile will take time. Okay. So there you see it. Start match, and there's our script log, and it's showing our test variable, which is 101, just like we said before. So let's close this. Okay. So now let's say we want to de-increment it, take 1 away. Same process, test int. Now instead of using plus plus, we use minus minus. This will take 1 away. Simple math. Now let's say we want to add 2 variables. So first let's make another variable. Let's name it test int 2. And let's make that equal to test int 2. Let's make that equal to 50.